All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guitar Wishes and your Guitar Wish of the day. This is Lee coming to you once again from our beautiful Guitar Wishes facility in downtown Lincolnton, North Carolina. We're back from NAMM, had a great time at NAMM, but we were in the store yesterday and this gentleman walked in, and this is Curtis Novak from Curtis Novak Classic Pickups. And what an honor it is to have you in the store. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
In the house. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing just fine.
I'll tell you, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and in this store, it was, so my wife had business in town as we're passing through after NAMM, and I thought I was going to walk into just a small town guitar store, the ding ding on the door, and I saw and everything looked right. And this store is amazing. This is nothing when I lived in the area that I would ever have expected here. And and it was, you walk in the front and it's the store, and it leads back through two doors to this amazing cavern of guitars. And I'm thinking, at first I thought, well, that was just a mirror that I'm seeing the reflection back of the front of the store and the door. And as I walk closer, I'm like, well, no, and this just keeps going. And I was astounded.
He was gracious enough to sit down for an interview, talk about some of the work he's done, the road to get to where he is, and what's happening in the future. So again, it's an honor to have him here. And I'll just start out by saying, you know, how does someone approach the pickup business? What started? How did you start? Did you see an area that was not being met, a need that was not being met by the current pickups?
Yeah, there was this drive to have. When I heard my first vintage sound, I was young enough to hear vintage guitars before they were put on the really high shelf or in the glass cabinet, and I got to play them. And the modern ones, they got them to look vintage, but they just didn't sound vintage. Since a kid, my first guitar was a cheap Asian-made guitar I bought with my lunch money from a classmate, and it was a cool guitar. Not really a good guitar player because I was more intrigued by what made it work, how did it sound the way it sounded, why doesn't this sound like these other ones I've heard on records and stuff. So I took it apart, explored it, and eventually I convinced my parents to buy me a set of Seymour Duncan pickups, probably around 80, 81, a Strat set. We put them in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is that sound.
Sure.
This is that sound. And I had it, and I was so proud of it. I loaned it out to my friends. They played them. They thought, wow, this is really cool. I got it back a week later, and all the pickups were broken.
Oh, wow.
Because the covers, they couldn't fit over, the covers on that guitar didn't fit on these, so I'm playing them without covers. And someone bent the string over and broke the coil. I called up Seymour. I had pestered him so much as I was in junior high, and I'm pestering him about pickups, this and that. And he said, sorry, we don't rewind our own pickups. We only rewind vintage pickups. And my parents were never going to buy me another set. They were like, well, you know, you did, we did it. You blew it. You're done. And so from then on, I just had these in a box, and they're just looking at them, remembering how good they sounded. And over the years, I just would read, I'd research, and I figured out how to make them work again, but I didn't know if they were any good. And it was more of my own interest of, I'm not a big person that reads a lot of books or watches a lot of TV. If I watch TV, I would got a guitar in my hand. I got to be doing something. So it was an exploration that I went into, and I found that sound, and I made them. Then I start making them for friends, and they're liking them. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, we're friends, and it was that, and it was just over time people started coming to me that I didn't know that it would be people heard from people that heard. And this was so I was a computer scientist for the government. I did some of the first websites in the country. So I had a blog before they were blogs of this is pickups and this is what I do. I was doing vintage refins. And so people from around the world were seeing that, and they would email me saying, can you do that to mine? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I could do it. And I wasn't really paying attention because it was just a hobby. It's what I did when I was off work.
Right.
And it kept getting bigger. And it was also helpful that I was a computer scientist, and understood the internet, and I was a graphic designer before that, so I could create websites. And so back in the early days, if you did a Google search or a Yahoo search, my stuff, anything guitar related, I came before Fender, Gibson, DeMars, anybody. So it was just, if you did anything if you searched for Shell Pink, my name came up. Lake Placid Blue, my name came up, always at the top of the list. And then after they started selling placements, I never really bought them, and so it would drop down. But I've had a history for so long on there that it's held true. So so in the end, it's about 30% of my business is international. It's always been, and I've never advertised anywhere. And I got in just, I think, at that right bubble. I could have, if I sought out to do it, I wouldn't have been able to figure this out.
Yeah. So you were talking about pre-internet, and truly that is word of mouth. And since the internet, things have become a little bit easier. But of course, after the explosion of the internet, so many more companies pop up. But pre-internet, it's truly word of mouth. And tell me how difficult it was.
Oh, it was easy.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a smaller town. It was Santa Fe, New Mexico. So a band had come through, and I would show up at the band. They'd be playing at the bar. Usually I'd meet them before the show. I built these really light guitars. They're like 5-pound Strats Tele style guitars. And I would meet with the guitarist before the show and, have a beer and chat. And they would feel the guitar and they're like, holy smokes. And, say, can I play it? And I'm like, yeah, play it. But I got to leave. I got to go back to work. And so at the end of the first set, I'll just take it back. So it was almost like shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
Because you walk in, they play this guitar and it sounds right. And it feels right. And they would play my guitar, and then they'd have to go play their guitar for the second set.
And they're missing it.
And the drummer will say, dude, what was that thing you were playing in the first set? And so usually I would leave them a business card and get a call. And then from that, it spreads kind of like a virus, because then they're going to music festivals, and they've got a gold top Les Paul, a reissue one, and they go to a festival and they're playing with 3 other bands that all have that same guitar, and they're like, why does yours sound the way it does when mine doesn't? And we swapped out the pickups, so I'll get a phone call from the next guy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And my focus has always been on the tone.
Right. And as you said, as we were talking earlier, you would build the entire guitar.
Yes.
You built guitars from top to bottom, and then decided to scale back to only what was producing the tone, which is the pickup, because that's where your passion was.
Yeah, because you could go through a lot of guitars. A lot of people think that it's the wood, it's the age of the wood, it's the neck, it's the tuning, it's all these things, or that it's the age of the magnets, or some kind of mythical thing in the wire. And it really wasn't. I just spent time researching to say, how did they make pickups at this period when they have this amazing tone? And I studied the process. I built my own winders. I still use very crude winders like what Leo used and what Carvin used. A single motor with a counter and a rubber band on it that and you have to change the rubber band every few months. But it was about keeping it simple. And my philosophy was, when I was leaving my job, I had a really, really good 16-year pension in a company for the government, and it was really good, but I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled as I did doing this. And I was like, could I really sell enough pickups to make up that?
Yeah.
That it was before the economy tanked, and I was like, I'm working for the same place my dad worked for, and so I knew what kind of benefits he got. And every year it's like the benefits are less, they cost more, they're less, they cost more. And I'm thinking, I've been here 16 years, in another 15 years, what's going to be left? And my heart's not in it, and it was doing this other thing. So I was ready to leave that life and start this, figuring if I fail, I can pick it back up. Sure. Often people become a prisoner of their success.
Yeah.
And they get successful at one thing, and they don't ever want to leave it because they're scared that they won't ever get it again.
But at some point you have to take that leap. You did, and you moved around. You moved to Granite Falls, North Carolina, and the business grew. You met your wife, Sherry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And she has joined your team, and of course she was helping wine pickups and do some amazing things with the group. And you have grown your brand to where it's one of the most popular pickups on the market, and some of the biggest players on the road today. Our biggest players who are recording music today are playing your pickups. People like, Queens of the Stone Age, Jackson Browne, some of the guys with Black Crowes, some really, really influential guitar players are playing your pickups. And, so what happens, somebody, Jackson Browne's on the road and something's going on, he needs one of your pickups. What do you do?
Well, of course, I treat everybody as important because I was that kid that pestered Seymour. And everyone, you don't know who the next great player is going to be, and everyone matters, but I treat people like that are on the road, whether they're Jackson Browne's level or they could be a young band that's on the road, but I treat them as this is their trade, this is their tool. It's like, it's no different than if they had a flat tire. They got to get to their next gig.
Sure.
And they got to play.
Sure.
And so I always kind of push them in front of people that, and I'll ask them legitimately, is this really a rush, or is this not?
Right.
If they're legitimate, they're on the road, it's a rush. I'll find out what their tour schedule looks like, how long it's going to take me to do this, and I can have it shipped to whatever hotel that the next place they're staying at, or the venue.
Sure.
And so, but to me, everyone's a star. Everyone's important.
Right, absolutely.
Just some people need it to pay rent or buy gas money, and so those I put a little higher.
Right.
On when I was a kid and I had a guitar, I couldn't wait till the next day. I had to have it now, but I didn't have a need to have it now.
Was there a point where you put everything aside? You were growing the brand and growing the business. You were doing NAMs every year, and people were coming by. Was there a point where you got a call from somebody where like, you know what, this is really taking off, right? Or I cannot believe this person is calling me. I can't believe this person has my pickup in their guitar. Have you hit that point yet?
Yeah, I did a while ago, and it's shocking because as a kid I was a fan of music, and so I don't know. I thought I knew everything about music, and when I got involved in the business, I realized that there's bands that are reunion bands that I never heard. Their 20th reunion, and I never heard of them the first time because music's just exploded.
Oh yeah.
From my heyday was the 70s, 80s, 90s. But yeah, there's Jackson Browne. There's stuff I've done for Neil Young. Neil Young was one of my first concerts. Yeah. There's doing stuff with O'Teal, who's playing with the Grateful Dead. That was another one of my very first concerts to in the middle of a few years ago at the Hollywood Bowl. I'm down in the swimming pool watching Bob Weir and watching the Grateful Dead play, and I watching with O'Teal using my pickups, thinking, when I was 15, I couldn't have slept if someone said, this is where you're going to be, this is who you're going to be meeting with. But to that notion, I had sent O'Teal pickups he was switching. O'Teal likes 5- and 6-string basses. They're all modulus basses, but they're active pickups, and he doesn't like active pickups. So he was like, can you do me something that's passive pickups that has the old school bass vibe, but plays in my 5- and 6 strings. And I said, yeah, I think I could do it. And so we did it right before the Dead and Company tour. And they went on stage, and the bass, it was like the second night when I saw him, and his bass kept cutting out in the middle of it. And so I'm up front having a good old time, and I see him point at me and say, go around back. And I'm like, so in the middle of the set, the first set, I'm backstage on the Hollywood Bowl while the Dead's playing, and I'm helping the tech figure out what was wrong. He had an active pan pot on there, and while he's playing, he would bump the tech that put the pickup in before he came on with the tour. Didn't change the pots out, so he like was bumping it. So in the middle of playing, he's turning his bass off, and so I saw it right away. And you know, I being a troubleshooter R&D guy, you know, quite quickly found out what the problem was. We got it fixed, and
we've got a mutual friend that plays with Sheryl Crow,
Robert Kearns.
Robert Kearns,
and Robert Kearns is the reason I came to North Carolina. Besides Sherry, of course, but he was one of them that I duped with. Well, and he was playing with Chris Duarte. It was Chris Duarte that I came with the guitar.
Right.
And I said, you know, you curious to see a guitar, and Chris kind of fell for it.
He's a great player. Chris.
You know, he's amazing. He's an amazing player. But Robert is. So when a band had come through, Santa Fe was neat, and I love the art. I love the culture. It's where I grew up. But for a music scene, it wasn't really good. Everybody. And I knew if I was going to make a living off of this, I got to find somewhere else to go, because everyone that played music and played in bands was either a roofer, a lawyer, a landscaper. They weren't a professional musician.
Right.
And so they'd come through, and I would say, where do you live? You know this country. Where's a cool place that's a reasonable cost of living, low crime, and because everything's mail order, so I could be just near a post office.
Sure.
And Robert said, you have to check out Conover, at least from Conover, North Carolina. He said, you got to come out and check out the area. And,
right.
And it was it. And, you know, it's so centrally located. And when I was here, this wasn't here. And there was a few stores. It was okay. But the economy was having a hard time back then. And, but, you know, this was central between Asheville, Charlotte, Winston, and then you go out to Greensboro, Knoxville, Greenville, and then you go out to Atlanta, D.C., and Nashville. And, and it all came through here. And I met real musicians that had a family of 5, and he plays guitar and just goes around. And it changed everything.
Yeah. Well, now, is there an online presence that people can go and check out your work, what you've done, what's coming up in the future? Where can people go and check it out?
Of course, Instagram, Facebook, it's Curtis Novak. If you Google Curtis Novak, that one I still come up first in the list. Yeah, I'll be there. But and then my website. My website, I recently had it designed. I did it before because I was a designer and a computer programmer. So when I left that job, I did the site, but it was like 15 years out of date, and it got to be the point that I'm the cobbler that doesn't have good shoes. And so the website just went down because all I was doing was pickups, and I recently got a new web designer. So you see what I'm doing, but my Instagram is probably, you're going to see the bleeding edge stuff, because being always R&D, I'm not really good at production. So now I've got a staff that works better that I've hand trained, and we all have hand winders, and I've taught them how to do it. Like Sherry does all the bisonics, and her cousin Brian does a lot of the humbuckers, but I'll sit with them and show them how to do it. I'll build the winder for them. And then Dana, she does a lot of she works with me in Yucca Valley, and she does pretty much anything I throw at her. But for me, I'm not really good at repeating the same thing 20 times.
Sure.
So I'll be winding a pickup, and it's like all of a sudden this thing will hit me, and it's like, oh my God, I got to race through this because I want to try this other thing. And things have always come to me like that. And I've got 3. I'm a little bit anxious because on the flight to Nashville, I came up with 3 new designs that I'm itching to get back to horsing around with them to see if they're gonna before they come and go. It's kind of like, I guess, like a songwriter. It's there, and it's like, I'm afraid I'm gonna forget it.
Right.
And you can't always capture it writing it down.
Now, tell me about your views on success.
My view on success is to not get hung up on success. I'm not scared I'm not scared of failing. Mm-hmm. And people that get really hung up on success, you miss that point. And so I'll have a vision. I'll think of something that I want to do, and I'll chart it out. I'll figure out a plan. I'm going to make this happen. And I almost always fail at whatever I plan to do. But when you're okay with failure and you just keep moving forward and have faith in yourself, what ends up the result of that failure turns out to be better than what I even thought I would do if it would have succeeded. Yeah. And so rather than letting success or failure go, I'm just going to throw this away. If I, you put it to the side and you think about it, and it all works out. It's all about the bounce back and how to not, you don't know what the final stroke is. Mm-hmm. You failed at it, but there's success somewhere in that failure, and that often comes in R&D.
Now, do you do any outsourcing for the construction of your pickups?
No, most of what I do is odd and unique, and some of the standard stuff I do. I have my own laser cutter that I'll do that, but the frustrating thing of trying to recreate some of the pickups like the Bisonic bass pickup is that there's no parts like this out there. So I had my own injection mold machine built, and I used to do that in the beginning, and it was just, everything gets so taxing on me. So I've been an awesome guy, Jonathan Hischke, that he's a musician, bass player, travels a lot, but when he's not, he's in Joshua Tree area with all of us, and he does all my polishing and plastic work between that, the New York Zephyr pickup, the right. Melody Maker covers. So anything I can't find and it's in a mold I can make, I usually make it, and Johnny spends his days doing plastics.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I've got to ask you this. So you've seen a lot of pickups, you've played a lot of pickups, you've built a lot of pickups, invented a lot of pickups. What's your favorite?
Yeah, that's a really common question. I get that one a lot, and oddly enough, it's hard to choose. But my favorite pickup that I could ever think of is the one I haven't invented yet. It's the one that's around the corner. I don't have a checklist of what I'm doing. It's everything leads to the next, and they're breadcrumbs. And I've stumbled across some amazing things that a week ago I never imagined I would do. So at one time Jazzmaster pickups were the greatest thing in the world. Then I was known for the Bisonic, and then it's like gold foils are huge, and then something else will come along. I don't even know what it is, but it's like, holy smokes, there's a whole, there's a bottomless pit here to dig through.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Curtis Novak. Ladies and gentlemen, please go check his stuff out online. Again, Curtis Novak Custom Pickups. Such an honor to have you in the store. Thank you again so much. Thank you. If you want to know more about him, anything else you've seen on our channel, you can also contact us here at Guitar Wishes. Check out guitarwishes.com, of course our Facebook site, and of course our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to that and smash that notification bell so you are informed of new content uploaded daily. And for everybody here, I'm Lee, and I'm out.